Happy summer, everybody! Welcome to the FGO Gacha Guide for all you NA players. Do you want to know if a servant is good enough to spend your hard-earned quartz on? Then you're in the right place. Today's topic servant is the wave-riding master of the Niten Ichiryu. That's right, it is Shinmen Musashi no Kami Fujiwara no HARUNOBU, aka Miyamoto Musashi, summer version. We will be covering all of the points that you see on screen, but first off, a fun fact with Musashi. Summer Musashi has softened up on her Way of the Sword mindset, and is way more willing to go around and play around with others. Therefore, if you're a big Musashi simp, then this is your best chance to waifu her. So be sure to get ready for rolling. Now on to my personal opinion on her. In my personal opinion, Summer Musashi is quite good, and is only going to get better in about a year from now. As of now, she is going to be a very strong AoE arts berserker with looping potential. This means she only has one rare-to-see class that she isn't good at killing, because she is a berserker. It makes her a farming goddess. If you have any good art supports, such as Tamamo no Mae especially, you will be able to use her for just about any content in the game, and in a year when Castor Artoria comes out, Summer Musashi is going to become the best looping partner due to her high damage and class advantage. She'll be able to farm pretty much anything. Moving on, let's look at her stats. Musashi is a 5-star Berserker class servant, meaning that she has 1.5 times offensive effectiveness against all classes, while taking 2 times damage from them, with the exception of Foreigners, which she is weak against, and Shielders, which she is neutral against. Her attack at level 90 is 12,712, which is in the top 5 of 5-star attack stats. Very high. Her HP at 90 is 12,150, which is in the bottom 5 to make up for her huge attack stat. Looking at her hidden stats, we can see that her NP gain per hit is 0.51%, pretty average. As for her cards, her quick card has 4 hits, her arts cards have 3 hits, her buster cards have 4 hits, and her extra card has 5 hits, a little below average, due to the lower hit on her arts cards. Her star weight, aka how easy it is to get critical stars on her cards over other servants, is only 9. This is extremely low. This is about what you expect for a berserker, though. Her star creation rate is also extremely low at 5%, so it's very hard for her to get stars on herself or create stars. Luckily, she doesn't rely on them too much. Overall, her stats come out to be relatively average, but I'd say they're above average because the important things that really matter for her are higher up. The higher attack stat is important. The MP charge on hit, while being average, is better than what it could be, especially given certain other servants that have come out, having as low as 0.27%, making it possible for her to actually loop. And the fact that she is a berserker means that those really high attack stats and decent NP charge is going to be even better because of her ability to have pseudo-class advantage on just about anything. Taking a look at her deck in NP, she has 1 quick card, 2 arts cards, and 2 buster cards, our standard 2-1-2 deck setup. Her noble Phantasm, Ganyujima, I was told there would be magic sword busting, is an AoE arts NP with 4 hits that will deal damage to all enemies, reduce their critical attack chance by 30% for 3 turns, and has a 100 to 200% bonus chance, to seal enemy sabers NP for 1 turn. It's honestly a very basic NP and not that amazing. The bonus effects that it gives are both for more extended fight situations, which honestly you don't want to bring Summer Musashi into. She's overall a little bit fragile. She has a pretty low health pool for a 5-star, and being a berserker, she takes double damage from just about anything out there. It would have benefited her a lot more if she had some offensive effects instead of these defensive bonus effects, but what are you gonna do? Next up, her passives, we have Madness Enhancement EX for 12% better buster performance, Magic Resistance C for 15% better debuff resistance, Riding D for 4% better quick performance, and Divinity D for 125 higher base damage. None of these are super exciting for Musashi, honestly. Madness Enhancement is her best passive. It has a decent damage boost for her two Buster cards, but unfortunately she's a more arts-based servant this time around, so it doesn't do as much for her as you'd like. Now, moving on to her skills. First off, we have Excel Turn. This gives Musashi evasion for 1 attack, and increases her critical damage for 1 turn by 30 to 50%. This is the exact same skill as Rider Da Vinci's second skill. Again, it's not very good. The low cooldown is nice and all, but only blocking 1 hit of evasion, only having 1 turn of a buff, is just combining 2 very weak skills into 1 slightly less weak skill. On top of that, considering you're putting on an arts-based servant that does not create stars very well, where are you even getting the critical stars to try and get that critical damage? The real answer is this skill exists for sometimes you get a crit, and mostly you have 1 hit of evasion. Not that impressive. Moving on to her second skill, we have Fifth Serving. This doubles the number of hits her arts cards do on normal attacks for 1 turn, increases the damage of her arts cards when normal attacking for 1 turn by 0 to 30%, and increases her own NP generation rate for 3 turns by 30 to 50%. This is an extremely helpful skill for her as it aids in her ability to NP loop, especially given the 50% higher NP rate that she gains. That is very, very helpful. It can also help make it a single very explosive turn for Musashi via her normal arts cards if you're taking her into a more difficult fight, if you are taking her into one of those challenge fight situations. Finally, we have her third skill, Tenma Gogan. This gives Musashi invincibility ignore for 3 turns. It increases her attack by 20 to 30% for 3 turns. It gives her Gut status, which will proc once for 3 turns, reviving with 1 HP. It reduces all enemies' defense by 20 to 30% for 3 turns, and finally will deal 5,000 damage to Musashi as a demerit. It will not kill her, though. This is a very strong skill that helps make Musashi able to clear just about any setup of enemies. That ignore invincibility and attack increase are really helpful. Along with the defense reduction, if you're able to save this for a later wave, means that she's going to have the damage output to destroy just about anything. Now, it does have the big drawback of 5,000 health, meaning if you are bringing Musashi into one of those longer fight situations, this is a difficult skill to prioritize using. It at least gives her a guts for 1 hit. It's more useful in general for those more difficult fights just due to the ignore invincibility, but it has enough benefits that it helps a lot in 3-turn farm looping as well. It's a really good skill. With these skills in her MP, you can see Musashi's mostly set up for challenging fights, honestly. It's really odd. Having a single explosive turn to complement solid multiple turns is really what she's got going on, but she's way better off on a fast-farming, looping setup. Being a Berserker makes her a lot harder to use in those longer fights, like I said before. She's really fragile. Honestly, ignoring what the devs want you to use her for, and instead just shoving her into a looping comp and farming, works way better for her. So what materials do we need to level these skills? Musashi is a little expensive overall, but not too bad. Each skill will take you 15 shells, 44 proofs of heroes, 24 rings of giants, and 10 Tsukumo mirrors. To max her out, it'll be 45 seashells, 132 proofs, 72 rings, and 30 mirrors. The high proof cost might be rough on some players, and the mirrors are still a relatively new material, making Musashi a tiny bit expensive. Along with the fact that Giant's rings have been somewhat common in some of the more recent servants, you might be low on those as well. It really depends on the player, but Musashi's not the cheapest, but not the most expensive out there. So how does Musashi stack up against her top competition? As an AoE 5-star Berserker, her main competition falls to Minamoto no Raiko, Zhang Yu, and Arjuna Alter. When it comes to raw damage output, she's able to compete pretty darn well. Arjuna Alter will beat her out, but he beats everyone out there. I mean, come on. He's the big damage man. Her star production is garbage compared to any of them, so crits are a lot harder for her to come by. However, she is the only one of these servants that can loop. The only other AoE Berserker that can loop is 4-star Lancelot. Musashi does it better, more consistently, with higher damage, and easier MP gain. This makes her extremely good, and basically contesting for the best 5-star Berserker in the game against Arjuna Alter. On top of that, Musashi can loop at MP1, for those wondering. Yes, you can loop with her at MP1, and she'll be able to handle most quests, so her investment does not have to be huge. As always, NP2 makes life a lot easier. But again, she can function fine at MP1. I know somebody's going to ask that question, so there you go, I covered it for you. Now, if you roll for Musashi, what skill should you prioritize in leveling? Simply start off with skill number 2. It is the most important one, as it is used for her NP generation for 3-turn loop farming. Simple as that. Then go for skill 3, it has good scaling, it has great buffs, and the demerit of 5,000 health doesn't matter if you're loop farming. And finally, skill 1 sucks, so level it whenever you feel like, don't level it if you don't feel like. Honestly, you don't need to do anything with it, it sucks. Now let's go over craft essences for her. Musashi is an AoE arts servant who is great at MP looping, so to help her achieve this, the best free-to-play craft essences that I can recommend are both summer craft essences. We have Painting Summer and Dive to Blue. Painting Summer will give you a 10% arts performance boost, 10% MP generation boost, and 50% starting MP gauge. While Dive to Blue will give you a 10% arts performance boost, 10% MP damage boost, and 50% starting MP gauge. They're really similar. They're both extremely good for helping arts units loop multiple turns in a row. Painting Summer makes looping a little easier and is better if you're up against more difficult to loop classes like Berserkers or Assassins because they give you less MP return. While Dive to Blue is better if you need a little bit of bonus damage, and especially if you're against an easily loopable class like, say, Casters. Now, once Caster Artoria comes out, a fine alternative is the Black Grail. For 60 or 80% at match limit broken, NP damage up at the cost of only 500 health per turn. The looping is less consistent for her, but the damage potential is extremely high. Again, if you're against one of those easier to loop classes, like Casters, then the Black Grail is a very valid choice on Summer Musashi to guarantee that you're going to be able to bust your way through the enemies. Now, what servant should we group Musashi with? Oh, look, it's Waver. Hi, Waver. What a surprise he's here. 50% MP charge up over his skills, defense up, attack up, crit up. He works with anyone. Waver's always here. Since Musashi is an art servant, her current best supporter on NA is going to be Tamamo no Mae. Tamamo brings 50% arts up for 3 turns, 30% MP damage up for 3 turns, healing, NP charge on her NP, cooldown reduction with her MP if you're going to take her on longer fights, making her very, very good with Summer Musashi. And of course, next anniversary when she is out, Caster Artoria will be the absolute best support for any art servant, including Musashi. Castoria will bring 50% MP charge, 20% attack up, 30% MP gain up, and 50% arts up for 3 turns. Making it very, very, very easy for you to loop with her. Now, another servant I will mention, I do not have their icon here because I didn't think of them at the time, would be Nero Bride. Because Nero Bride also brings you a very important amount of NP generation up that you can use. Nero Bride is very, very, very good if you're trying to close the gap in what you need to be able to get your looping done. She comes with a 45% MP rate up boost, a 30% MP charge boost after her strengthening, and a nice 40% attack up for her teammates. So again, a very, very good possibility to bring. So, quick too long didn't watch here. Musashi is very good. Summer Musashi is a great servant to roll for. She's one of the best berserkers in the game, one of the best farming servants in the game even. She's at least the best berserker for looping, beating out Lancelot, who's been staple since Scotty came out. She can loop like crazy, she does tons of damage while doing it, she is easy farming, and she can work in challenge fights. I know I said she's not great for it, and that remains true because she's very fragile, but she will output a lot of damage in challenge fights, and if given the opportunity, will be very good for them. But if you're not convinced, if you really need a good reason to roll for her, I got one for you. She has huge, bouncy personality. That's right, Summer Musashi is very happy and a Genki servant. So if you have enjoyed this video, check out my Twitch channel and all that. Leave a follow, leave a subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck on your rolls. I hope they work out for you, and I will see you on the next Gacha Guide.